What is continuous glucose monitoring? There's been a huge evolution in blood glucose monitoring technology. The standard of care used to be traditional blood glucose meters where patients would do finger stick tests to determine their blood glucose levels. But this never gave the full picture. What's happening in between these tests? What's happening at night when the patient's sleeping and unable to test? This is where the Dexcom G6 comes in. It sends a glucose reading automatically every 5 minutes. And not only do they get the number, they also get the speed and direction that they're headed. So with a single glance, they can see their current glucose and where they're headed. With Dexcom G6, patients can also set alerts and alarms that'll warn them of low and high glucose events. So what does this mean to your patients? Let's break this down. So let's say you have a patient that is doing finger stick tests. So they are testing 4 times a day. This is the gray dots on the graph. They might do these 4 tests and think, I had a pretty great day. All my tests were between about 5 millimoles per liter and 10 millimoles per liter. But what they didn't see was that they actually had a high in the afternoon. Dexcom G6 is the green line on the graph. It fills in the information in between. And at about 1:30 p.m., they actually had a high alert. That's the 13.3 there in yellow with double arrows up. And that alarm could have gone off, warning them of a high glucose event. Maybe even more important to the patient would have been the alert they would have received at around 11 p.m. there. That's at 6.1 in red with double arrows down. And this is actually a predictive alert that's warning them in advance of a low. We'll talk about the alerts and alarms in this presentation today. Dexcom CGM has proven outcomes that patients can benefit from. On the left, patients on Dexcom CGM were able to reduce their A1C by an average of 1% compared to patients using finger stick tests. This is a really significant reduction in A1C, but what's also important is that patients on Dexcom had a 72% reduction in their hypoglycemic events. So not only reducing A1C, but may also help to prevent the lows from happening. Finally, patients on Dexcom CGM were able to increase their time in range by an average of 1 hour and 47 minutes per day compared to a flash glucose monitor. A few indications for use here. So Dexcom G6 is approved for patients ages 2 and up, and it requires no routine finger stick tests. So there's no calibrations or confirmations with the system, and this is because of the accuracy. Second point in the center there is that there's no scanning with our system. You might be familiar with flash glucose monitoring systems, or sometimes called intermittently scanned continuous glucose monitoring systems, where patients actually have to physically scan to get this information. This isn't the case with Dexcom G6. What this means is that there's no missing data for your patient, and it's one less step for them to make. And then finally, the alerts and alarms with Dexcom G6 are customizable. The range can be changed. They can set a low alert, a high alert. They can be turned off, turned on. So it's very customizable to your patient's needs.